Now let's move on. Now I want to show you what happens when we use this plus operator with a string. So here I'm declaring a as a string. So 1, 2, 3 in quotes is of type string. Now the question is, can we write statements like a is equal to a plus 1? What happens when we add 1 to this string 1, 2, 3? Whether the result will be equal to 1, 2, 3, 1, whether it will be 1, 2, 4, that is 1 is added to the last digit. The last digit here is 3, so 3 plus 1 is 4. Is the result 1, 2, 4, or is it something else? So first let's uncomment this code and then execute it. Now notice this code does not work. So we got a runtime exception. Unlike C++, where we used to get a compile time errors or warnings, in Python we will only get runtime exceptions. And the exception here says that we cannot concatenate a string and an integer. So the plus operator here works as a concatenation operator when we are dealing it when the operands are strings. And for the plus operator, both the operands should be of the same type, and they should both be strings. So we cannot mix an integer and a string. So next, the question is, what happens when we execute code like a is equal to a plus a? Let's first evaluate this expression, print the value of a, and then check the result. Notice value of a was 1, 2, 3, so it was initialized to 1, 2, 3. After this line was executed, the value of a is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So the plus operator is a concatenation operator when the operands are strings. Now let's go to the interactive console window. Let's again write a to be 1, 2, 3. Now let's write b to be equal to string 4, 5, 6. Now let's see what is a plus b. Now notice again, a plus b is concatenating two strings a and b, so it's joining both the strings a and b, so the result is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can also do something like a plus, we can write temporary string literal, so I'm adding an underscore in between a and b, so now this should evaluate to 1, 2, 3 underscore 4, 5, 6. So plus operator, the plus operator when the operands are string works as a concatenation operator. Now next we want to check whether we can use star operator with strings. So b is initialized with a string 2, and now I'm checking whether I can do b is equal to b star 2. So we already saw that we cannot mix integers and strings as operands for the operator plus. Now the question is, can we mix integers and string for operator star? So let's evaluate this code and check what happens. Now notice we didn't get a runtime error, which means that this is valid syntax, and the result is 22. Now the way this code works is b star 2 is repeat b 2 times. So let's go back to the interactive console window and let's see what is a star 3. So a is equal to 1, 2, 3, so a star 3 will repeat a 3 times, so the result should be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if we want to repeat a particular string n times, we can do a times n. If we want to concatenate two strings, we will write a plus b, where a and b are both of type strings. Great. So let's continue next. Now I want to introduce you to if conditional statements. So here we will look at an example of a nested if condition, and we will see how this if condition differs from the syntax in C++. So here I'm declaring a variable called sum first. It's initialized with value equal to -1. Now with C++, the syntax for if condition was as follows. First we write if, then within parenthesis a condition, and then within opening and closing brace we write the body of the if statement. In Python it's slightly different. So we don't have a parenthesis first, and then we don't have opening and closing braces to write the body of the if statement. So here you simply write if space a condition followed by colon. So colon is important at the end of loops or conditional statements in Python. We need to write a colon. Without colon, this code will not compile. So you get you get an error, syntax error. So the error says that unexpected token. So a colon is necessary for this particular when we write if statements in Python. Now, the body of if does not begin and end with braces, unlike in C++. In Python, the body of the if statement has a different indentation to the if statement itself. So notice here the if statement, so the body of the if statement is indented with a single tab. Now, the programmer has a choice of what type of indentation to use. You can either use spaces or tabs. You need to choose one type of indentation and use it consistently throughout the code. That is, you're not allowed to mix spaces and tabs as indentations in different places in code. Either you use spaces or you use tabs to indent the code. Now, the body of the if statement has one level of indentation. So I'm using one tab to indent. Everything which has one tab indentation will be treated as the body of this if condition. Until again we get a statement which has no indentation. So everything until the next if condition here, where if 1 is greater than 2, is part of the body of the first if condition. Now within this if condition, we are setting the value of this variable sum to be equal to 0 first. Then again we have an if condition. So this was an example of a nested if. So we have an if within an if, wherein again we are checking where 1 is greater than 0, that's the condition, followed by a colon. And notice now, since this is the second if condition, you have two tabs. So you have two level of indentations for the body of this second if condition. Now in C++, we had keyword else space if for else if. In Python, it is elif. So elif is read as else if. So here I want to check else if 1 is equal to 1. I want to change sum to be equal to 2. Again, since elif is part of this earlier if condition, you have two levels of indentation for the body of elif. Now the question here was asking what is the value of sum at the end of this code. So you're given this small piece of code. You saw this already in midterm. We provide a simple code snippet like this and ask you to evaluate the code. So let's try to evaluate this piece of code. Sum was initialized with value equal to -1. The first condition is checking whether 1 is less than 0. Since 1 is never less than 0, this body is never executed. So we can directly jump to the next if condition. Next if condition is checking whether 1 is greater than 2. Since 1 is also not greater than 2, the body of the if is not evaluated. So sum should be equal to -1 at the end of this code. So the correct answer is A. Now I've provided you a reference here, which is listing all the different comparison operators supported in Python. This is the same as C++. So you have greater than or equal to, you have less than or equal to, and you have equal to and not equal to. Now in C++, when we wanted to combine two conditions, we were using the logical AND or logical or one of the logical operators to combine two conditions. So that would be a compound statement. In Python, instead, we can write statements like this. So I'm declaring a variable x, it's initialized to value equal to 5, and then I'm checking whether x is in between 0 and 10. To check whether x is in the interval 0, 10, we can simply write this statement 0 less than x less than 10. Notice this is a more mathematical way of describing whether x is in the interval 0, 10. And this syntax is supported in Python. So you can simply write if 0 is less than x less than 10, colon, then if x is in between 0, 10, you will evaluate the body of the if condition, where I am simply printing the value x, and this string literal which says that x is in the interval 0, 10. So this is an example of printing uh, two things within the same print method. So you can call print with multiple variables or literals. So here first I'm passing a variable x, so its content is displayed. Then we will display this string literal, which is in interval 0, 10. So first let's evaluate the code, check what is the value of sum. So at the end of this code, let's go to watch window. Notice sum is still equal to -1. Okay, now let's execute this code here and check what will be the print. That is whether we see the print or not. Now notice we see that 5 is in the interval 0, 10. So you can use this 0 less than x less than 10 as a statement to combine two conditions into a single statement. Now we also have logical operators in Python. In C++ we had ampersand for logical AND. You had two pipe for OR. So this was AND, this was OR, and this was NOT in C++. Now in Python you have keywords AND, OR, and NOT. So you can simply use these keywords when you want to when you have two Boolean operands and you want to take a logical AND, you can simply use the keyword AND. Okay, so now I've declared a variable x, it's initialized with value true, then a variable y, it's initialized with value false. Notice in C++, true and false keywords began with lowercase t and lowercase f. In Python, the keywords true and false begin with uppercase t and uppercase f. So let's evaluate the next 3 lines and check what will be x and y, x or y, and not x. Okay, so since x is true, y is false, true and false is false, true or false is true, and not or true is false.